us is Jane Kirwan, reading from Don't Mention Her. Jane was born into a family defined by religion and medicine. These are her own words. Her Irish Catholic parents were both doctors in Northampton, and she worked for many years in the UK, in Africa, and in Ireland as a dentist. She now lives part of the year in London and part in Czech Republic. Her published works, as some of you will know, include collections of poetry published by Rockingham Press, The Man Who Sold Mirrors and Stealing the Eiffel Tower, and a remarkable joint venture, probably of poetry and prose with her partner, Alish Maharchek, called Second Exile. Jane is currently working on a collection of poems inspired by the Czech village in central Bohemia where she lives for part of the year. Don't Mention Her is her first novel, and it's a great pleasure to ask her to read from it.
Thank you. I'm going to read very briefly. We're both going to read very briefly. Don't Mention Her follows an extended family over 50 years following the death of a 5-year-old. This is Connie's daughter, Claire, and they both concern the child's mother, Connie. In the first, Connie has gone to London with her sister on a course. They're both doctors. Claire is alive and well, back home with her brother and cousin, being looked after by her father, Liam. So this is the very beginning, and it's set in 1963. And if I'm too loud or too whatever, just yell. A sea of white linen tablecloths. The hotel dining room had been abandoned. Connie finished off her rashers and tomatoes. She needed more toast. She poured the dregs from the silver coffee pot, examined her hands. Freezing outside, the knuckles red from her morning dash to get cigarettes. She must buy gloves. The waiter grabbed her plate in case, God forbid, she had plans for more. There was a phone booth in reception. She dialed Liam. The poor man sounded exhausted. The girls were asleep, but I managed to dress Rory. Her sister Pat might imagine they were in London to get credits towards their diplomas. She was here to have a break from the practice and the children. Pat's idea to get more strings to their bow. In general practice, there'd always be assistants, always second fiddle to their husbands. She must repeat that to Pat when her sister returns from praying. Liam would leave the girls to sleep until Mrs. M came. The house is freezing, he said. I've no chance to get more than the kitchen fire lit. Rory was up most of the night. The man was a martyr. Well, about time, she must investigate more excuses to escape. Apparently her niece had been reading to Rory and Claire before bedtime, got carried away. Nell scared them half to death. Nell's on holiday too, Liam. Give her some treats. The child was only visiting for a few days. Liam had better not take advantage. Connie smiled soothingly at a woman waiting to use the phone. She had an hour before the first lecture. Would pop into Dickens and Jones. I've been abandoned. Pat's flown off on a carpet of sanctity to hear Mass in the oratory. I must go, Con. Rory is screaming. Enjoy yourselves while you can. Only 2 more days. The man was counting the minutes. So this bit, who is that Scarlett making that row? This is another, a little bit briefer, you'll be pleased to hear. It's after Claire had died. Connie was in London, and she's disappeared. It's the day of the funeral, and Connie has disappeared. Connie walked into Perkins' department store, straight past the makeup ladies gossiping behind their counters to the lift. The relief to get out of the cold. She should have worn gloves. Don't think, get on with it. Now she was in the warm, she'd remember what she needed. The car would be safe parked where it was. She'd only be a few minutes. The lift smelt of Chanel No. 5, had mirror walls. The lift boy refused to look at her, kept his eyes on the ground. She checked. She was a sight. Black rags of hair loose over her fur collar. She looked like a witch. The boy had gold braid on his cap and jacket and barely reached her waist. He was much too short, far too young. They were hiring children illegally and dressing them up. Pat would have it reported immediately. Her sister's face the night she and Dermot arrived, the pious concern. Pat would be unbearable. "This is the third, madam," he said for the second time. The boy looked anxious, as if Connie might not ever get out. All those people on the other floors banging on the bell would be extremely angry. Could he smell the drink? She'd only had the smallest tot. The third floor looked wrong, but she couldn't decide why. "Can I help you, madam?" The assistant had appeared from nowhere. "A black coat. I need a black coat." The woman was trying to be helpful, but was clearly confused. "For you, madam?" "Of course for her." The sales assistant stood there, a great lump of gormlessness. Connie waited. Then they both looked round. Racks of children's clothes, rows of them, a whole floor of children's clothes. On the ground floor was a booth selling watches. That's what she needed. She would never hold on to a watch. "It's 12:30, madam," said the ball man behind the counter. They would be going into the church. The house would be empty.